You finally got your hands on the Quest 3S, but then you will quickly find out that there are so many different apps and games that you might get overwhelmed. That is why we will discuss the most essential VR games and applications that you need for your Quest 3S headset from the start, going all the way from the ones for new users to also the more experienced ones. And to start it off, it is good to know that a lot of apps have a demo version of it, meaning that if you are thinking of buying a big VR game, then it might be smart to first check if there is this demo version available, so you can try it out for free before you pull the trigger. And secondly, Meta also pre-installed a couple of apps and games on your headset that are already there the first time you turn it on. One example of this is First Encounters. This is basically a mixed reality game that makes you shoot on colorful furballs that are trying to invade your room. Or there's also the game called First Hands that lets you explore and help out in a robot facility, with both of these helping and learning you how to interact with virtual reality. But one of the first apps and games that you should get is a standing or seated experience. This can go from something as simple as 11 table tennis, where you play ping pong against other players across the world, to something like Walkabout Mini Golf. But probably the most popular example of this is known as Beat Saber, where you will be slashing blocks on the beats of some awesome music. And the reason behind these games being a great first pick is that new users often want to directly dive into some big open world titles, but then they will quickly notice that they get motion sick on another level. This is because your body needs some time to adjust to virtual reality, and one of the best ways to do that is with these standing experiences that don't have a lot of movement or dashing in it, besides of course of just moving your arms around. This makes it possible to slowly let you adjust to VR instead of getting sick all over the place. But still, don't think these games are easy at all, because they can go from very slow to absolute god level depending on the difficulty that you choose, where even the more experienced VR users will have some big struggles with it. But if you prefer a more chill experience without that much action, another great first option that is similar is known as Demio. This is specifically nice if you already love board games or Dungeons and Dragons, because just like the real thing, you can play with friends in randomly generated dungeons while you try your best to survive through all its secrets and boss fights. Or you can check out the free alternative to this that is known as Cards and Tankards, where you will be playing a deck building card game inside a medieval tavern while brawling it out the old duel-like style. And since it is free, it honestly doesn't hurt to give it a shot. But besides just games, there are also some important and useful apps that you should definitely try out. And most of these you will probably be using every single day, with directly the biggest example being none other than Big Screen. This is basically a home theater for your own VR headset, letting you watch all your videos to full-blown movies on a massive screen in different environments. And it even gives you the option to create a private room to chill out with friends and watch together. Or you can create one completely by yourself if you want to. But best of all, it is completely free, making this one of the must-have apps for anyone that likes to watch videos. Heck, it can even be used as a mirror screen to display your real-life computer inside VR. Well, if you want to focus more on playing some Steam VR games on your headset, then there is also an application called Virtual Desktop that manages to solve all these problems in one. However, this one doesn't come free, but it is still fantastic to use. But now that you got used to VR a bit, let's level it up with some immersive games and apps that let you explore all kinds of different worlds. The first one is from Meta themselves, named Horizon Worlds. Here, you can jump into different experiences, from a first-person shooter to a simple hangout spot where you can chill and meet some new people. And while most of these places aren't anything too crazy, recently Meta has been putting a lot of effort in its creation, and we are slowly starting to see some great experiences within it. Although another alternative to this is known as Rec Room, which has even more built-in worlds and lots of games that you can directly dive into. But just keep in mind that a lot of the younger audience can also be found here, and the same goes for the similar title like Roblox inside VR. But both of them can still be some great fun as long as you keep your volume to reasonable levels. But probably the best example of this, and the must-play VR game for anyone who owns a VR headset, is of course VR Chat, because here you can create your own avatar and places, as well as visit the infinite amount of creations of other people. But it is the quality of the spaces that you will be visiting that some worlds look better than real life, and that goes without to say that if there's something you can think of, then it probably already exists in VR Chat, meaning you just have to type it in and enjoy it. Or you can completely create it yourself, with once again all these social world apps we just mentioned being completely free. But if you want to take your Quest 3S experience to the absolute max, then we should talk about some advanced games and titles with some of the biggest and most awesome games the headset has to offer. One example of this is Assassin's Creed Nexus, which finally lets you take this big, well-established franchise to virtual reality for the first time, where you will be doing stealth missions and parkouring throughout its cities. Or, on the other side, you have the massive game known as Asgard's Wrath 2. This one brings in a near 100-hour-long campaign mode with a big story and a lot of puzzle solving with combat mixed into it. But if zombies are more your thing, then you could check out The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. This lets you take down big waves of undead in the coolest and probably most brutal ways possible, which also makes sure that all of these are giving you a lot of value and time, that they can finally be called full games instead of just VR experiences. However, the reason why it is important not to dive into it directly is because of the previously mentioned motion sickness. But if that's not the case at all, then some more recommendations as well as upcoming games that completely transport you to another world would be something like Arizona Sunshine 2, which is a zombie survival shooter with the original title also getting a makeover named Arizona Sunshine Remake. But of course, we also have the Batman Arkham Shadows game, which is actually included with a lot of Quest 3S headsets from the start, meaning most likely you will already have this waiting for you inside your library for free. And we of course also have to mention the highly anticipated game known as Behemoth, which has been in the making for so long, but seems like an absolute blast in virtual reality, and all of that on a massive scale. But next up, we should talk about some free games that you have to try, since well, they are free of course, with the first great example being Population 1. This is a competitive shooter that lets you do some crazy things, like flying from building to building by spreading out your arms, or climb literally anything you see, with there also being another popular title, which is known as Gorilla Tag. This one has a simple concept of just swinging your arms to climb across treetops in a big game of tag, but surprisingly, it managed to become massively popular amongst the younger audience, although the graphics might not be something to write home about. And a lot of people also compare it to another free alternative known as Yeep's Hide and Seek, that just like Gorilla Tag, managed to gain popularity insanely quick. And on top of all that, we also have a free multiplayer shooter known as Hyperdash, that lets you sprint and rail grind around the arena while trying to avoid incoming fire. But that gets us to the most unique and special experiences that you can get on your Quest 3S, with the first thing that comes in mind being a game that got some mixed reviews at launch called Bone Lab. This is a sandbox game similar to its predecessor on PC called Boneworks, which uses a physics-based system that makes everything feel so much more realistic. This goes from the interactions with virtual objects to the combat itself. But the reason why people didn't like it as much is because of the included campaign mode being pretty short. But if you love a sandbox style game where you can brawl it out in arenas or install a bunch of mods, then this is the perfect one for you. And a similar great example of this is known as Blade and Sorcery Nomad, that with its 1.0 Crystal update will also finally get a big story mode to the game, as well in combination with some much more improved visuals that make it closer to the PC VR version than we thought. With this throwing you basically in a medieval setting where you can fight and use magic to uncover all the secrets that are lurking within it. But there is another game that makes full use of what the Quest 3S is capable of, and that one is called Rat Matter 2. Now while this is by far not the newest game on this list, I am always shocked when I start it up because of the insane visuals that it manages to pull off, making it basically on par, if not better, than a lot of higher end PC VR games. And while the story's main focus is on environmental puzzles, as well as the occasional combat, it is specifically the beautiful surroundings that makes this game stand out from all the rest. And I just hope that more games can pull off such visual clarity in the future. But that's not all, because there are also some other must-play VR games for your Quest 3S as well as Quest 3. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out on it. And of course, stay awesome.